Hi friends, it's Becky, and today I'm going to be making 2 sets of jewelry, and I'm going to be doing that with the Bargain Bead Box, Sunken Treasure bead box. It was the June bead box for 2024, and I'm also going to be using the companion bundle. This is the version 1 companion bundle from Beadbox Bargains that was put together to go along with the Bargain Bead Box for June. And so I had unboxed this on the weekend, and I said I was going to plan on doing this, so here's the video for this. And so most of these beads and findings came in either of those boxes. I am using these turquoise turtles. I'm going to be using these seashell ones, these 10mm, the Saturn ones that came from there. These are some agates. I've got these sort of champagne colored bicones, a couple of these bead caps, some of the jump rings that came in that box, some of the spacers that also came in that box, and this dragon vein agate pendant stone that came with it. So I'm going to be doing beaded chains with this. I'll show you the links that I made. I already made several of these links and we'll be putting them together for both the necklace and the bracelet for this. And this was from the companion bundle. Now from the Bargain Bead Box, I'm going to be making a necklace using our octopus pendant that came in there with the patina. For the earrings, I'm going to be using these fantastic earring findings. And then we're going to be stringing a necklace instead of beaded chain. And I'm going to be using these gemstones, these crystals, and these lava beads as I'm stringing. And then for the earrings on both sides, I'm going to be using these earring findings that came in the Bargain Bead Box. Things that I'm adding to this that didn't come with it are some head pins that I'm going to be using with the earrings. They're just these ball head pins. And I also got this from Beadbox Bargains. And I found in my stash these patinaed fish hook closures that are just absolutely awesome. I think I might have gotten them from Amazon. If I did, I will put a link to that in the description below. I know I did not get them from Beadbox Bargains, or maybe I did, but if I did, they're not still on there. So I'll find a source for you for that, because I hate using things that I can't give you guys a hey, this is where you can get it from. So we're going to find out about that, but I thought this would be a perfect thing to use to close both the necklace and the bracelet that I'm going to be making with my Bargain Bead Box. So for the wire working that we're going to do with the Beadbox Bargain section, I've got some vintage bronze wire. I'm going to be using 20 gauge for doing my my beaded links for my chain, and then I'm going to be using 18 gauge to wire wrap my pendant for that. And then I'm going to be stringing onto this antique brass color beading wire for my Bargain Bead Box guy. And I'm just going to do a simple set. It's just going to be necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. Just 3 things because, you know, I've got stuff to do. And then I'm going to be with the wire, I'm going to just use these oxidized silver crimps, because that way I won't have a really bright flash of some different metal. It'll blend in pretty well with the dark tones on some of this. So that's why I'm going to be using those crimps for that. As far as my tools go, I'm just going to be using the beading tools that you may have seen me use before. I've got some chain nose pliers, some round nose pliers, some flush cutters to cut wire, and a crimper. It is the magical crimper. It's my favorite way of crimping. But really, like, basic jewelry making tools, if you're just starting out, like, these are like the 4 basic tools that you're going to want. Some pliers, round nose pliers, something to cut wire with and something to crimp. And if you've got those, you can make anything. I promise, anything almost. So I'm going to set aside that for now. We're going to get around to stringing this after we do our wire working. So these are going to be the tools that I'm using for this. Let's wire wrap the pendant first, and then I will show you the links that I made. All right, so I have an idea in my head of how I want this to go. We're gonna find out if it'll work or not. All right, I'm gonna just pull off, and I'm just warming this up right now by running this through my fingers and kind of curving it in one direction over my thumb. And then I'm gonna curve it in the other direction. Just the light curve really helps straighten it out. And it warms it up so it's easier to work with. And this is the 18 gauge vintage bronze colored wire. This is wire that I got from Parawire. All right, and I'm going to cut off, let's see, about 25 centimeters. Just going to be about 10 inches. And this may be too much, but I'd rather have too much than too little. And about a third of the way, or even a quarter of the way in, I'm going to find this spot here. I'm going to place my round nose pliers right there. I'm just going to grasp it. You don't have to grasp it super hard. But I'm going to bend with my fingers, push it around these pliers so that it makes a little circle right there. Now I need my chain nose pliers because I'm going to make two other bends on this wire. Where they meet, just right on the outside of where they meet, do you see that? I'm gripping right there. I'm going to bend this wire up to make kind of a lollipop shape. And then about the same spot here, I'm going to bend that one up so that they go like that. They're not right next to each other, and I'd like for them to be right next to each other. So I'm just going to push them together a little bit, gently with my fingers until they're right next to each other like that. Now with this round part, you can either use a bench block and a hammer to harden it, just this part right here, or I'm going to take my pliers and put it right here in the thicker part of it and just squish down on it with my pliers. Just give it a healthy little squish. It helps work harden this round part so it won't deform as we're doing the rest of this. Speaking of deforming, I'm going to want that to be sitting up here. So I want to make a bend in my wire right here. So I'm pushing against this with my finger and I'm holding onto this with this hand, and I'm just going to push until it's at an angle like that with that wire. And I'm going to take both ends of this and I'm going to put it through the hole in this dragon vein agate stone. This will accommodate, in this stone at least, 2 passes of 18 gauge wire. You want to, before you start doing anything, check to make sure that the hole is big enough to accommodate the wire that you're using. You don't want to ever have to force wire through a hole in your pendant or your stone or anything like that. Now, I'm just going to use my finger to make a curve in this wire because I want it to go through this hole. And by curving it gently, I'm going to be avoiding kinks. And then pulling gently. I'm going to want this one too. Hold on. The shorter end is starting to get a little bit caught up. So I'm just grasping it with my pliers and pulling it through. And then this one is going to go through too. All right, I'm pinching this with this finger and I'm holding this against this wire here while I'm pulling these two in this direction away from me. Okay. This longer one, I'm going to pull around the bottom of this little loop here and towards what I'm going to call the front of this pendant right here. And I'm just going to kind of leave it out of the way, straighten it out a little bit with my fingers. And this other part, I'm going to bend around the other side. Can you see that going this way? And right here, on this end here, I'm going to use my flush cutters. And flush cutters have like a beveled edge on this side and a flat edge on this side. So when it cuts wire there, it gives you a flat edge on the wire instead of a pinched edge. So now that that's cut flush, I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and bend that in and around that wire. All right. So that is the first part of this bail. Now the rest of this, I'm going to bend this right where it meets that out just a little ways. And see, this has not a flush cut. It's got kind of a pointed cut on it. So I'm going to cut the end of that wire so it is flush, so it's nice and flat. And now I'm going to start a spiral. And I want it to be a loose spiral. I don't want a tight spiral. So I'm going to start, instead of like close to the end of my round nose pliers, I'm going to start kind of in the middle because it doesn't need to be a really tight spiral. And I'm going to start moving this around like this. And then very gently trying to maintain a little bit of distance between the wire and the other wires there as I go around. All I'm doing is just trying to do a little bit of a spiral that's going to lay flat against our guy here, right in the front, but I want it to be a nice loose, like nautilus-y kind of a spiral, like this. And this way, it'll kind of echo this spiral here that it's going to be part of the necklace. So there we are, that's all wire wrapped. You know what, it worked. Absolutely worked. I'm just kind of pressing down towards this bit here just to help that stay where I want it to. that is the first part of this necklace. The second part of this necklace is going to be making the links. And I made 3 different kinds of links for these, but I used wrapped loops for all of them. So I'm just going to show you all of the different links that I made. I'm only going to make one of each with you. The rest of them are already made, and we'll just be putting them together after I'm done with this. And I'm doing the same thing with this 20 gauge wire that I did with the 18 gauge. Before I pull it off, I'm just warming it up with my fingers and also kind of straightening it out because there's a few kinks. And you can do that with your fingers by just doing a gentle bend in one direction and then a gentle bend in another direction. Let's see. It straightens it all out. You can also straighten wire using some nylon jaw pliers, but when you do that, you also kind of work harden it a little bit, which can sometimes make your wire a little more brittle when you go to bend it, more likely to snap. Usually that's an extreme case though. But the first link that I made, I'll show you this one, is one with one of my turquoise turtles. I put it on head first, and then I just added one of these little brass spacers that came in that companion bundle. It's one of the findings that came in that right there, just to fill in that space between where my loop is going to be and the bottom of my turtle. So I've got those on there. And then to make a wrapped loop, a couple of inches down from the top, like 2.5 inches, I'm going to bend the wire back so that it makes a little bend, and then pull the wire around my round nose pliers, and then move my round nose pliers around my loop and bring the wire all the way around so it crosses in front. And the reason I did that bend at the beginning is so that my loop is centered. It's not like all on one side or all on the other side. It's kind of equally distributed over the middle of this. And I'm going to hold on to my loop. You can either use another pair of pliers to do this, or I just usually use my fingers to move my wire around this center stem and wrap it 3-4 times, however many you feel like is a good amount of wraps. And if they're a little messy, just give them a little squish with your chain nose pliers to tighten them up. Cut off your excess. And if you've got any pokey outy bits, you can use your chain nose pliers to tuck those in. And then I always put the bead on first so that I can measure from the top of the bead to where I'm going to cut. And it's usually about 2.5, 2 3/4 fingers away from the top. The actual like measurement might be 1, 2, 3, 4 centimeters, something like that. And then to make your second loop, we're going to be doing that initial bend, but I'm going to be bending it using my chain nose pliers. On my chain nose pliers right next to the bead, and then bend the wire over the top of it. That way it leaves a little bit of room here between the bead and where my loop will be for my wraps to go. We're going to take our round nose pliers, push around it, move our round nose pliers out of the way. You can just leave it right in the loop while you rotate it. And then you have a loop. All we need to do is wrap this loop. And I'm going to do that the exact same way I did the other, just by pushing this wire around with my fingers. If you need to use pliers, you can. And I like to give my loops just a little bit of a squish with my round nose pliers to help work harden them. And I've got a little sticky outy bit here, so I'm going to use my flush cutters, cut that bit off. It is poking out, so I'm just going to tuck it like that. And that's my first link. I'm going to be connecting these with jump rings, so I don't need to worry about connecting my loops together before I wrap them. It's just an easy peasy way of making a bunch of links and then making a necklace with them. I really like keeping it simple. And then the next link that I made 2 of these because there were 2 of these. I already made the other one. I'm just putting on this knottle shell check glass bead on its own and doing another wrapped loop link. And I don't think I need to walk you through this a second time, so I'm just going to make it real quick. So we can get to the putting things together part of this tutorial. If you want to watch how I do it and how I describe it again, you could just go back to where I did it before. Do it along with me now that you've had some practice. But I made several of these links on their own. I really like making jewelry links as sort of my busy hands time, where I have a lot of trouble sitting still and just not doing things. So if I'm consuming media, like watching a television show, or if I'm listening to an audiobook, or watching some videos on YouTube or something, I like to be able to have my hands busy doing something. And so my busy hands time is when I will be knitting or embroidering or making little links like this that I can put together later for another video or just for something that I'm making on my own. I'll also do some bead weaving off camera, doing that with my busy hands time. All right, so that's my second one. And then the last link is probably the more complicated one. And for this one, I put on 1 bicone, 1 bead cap, and I want to put it on so that the cap part is facing the next bead that I'm putting on, which is going to be this agate bead. And that goes right on there. And then I'm going to put the second bead cap over that on the other side, facing towards that large bead, so they cap it. And then I'm going to put my bicone on the other side of that. It's the fanciest of all of the links that I'm doing today. And as with the other ones, I'm just doing some wrapped loops on these links. Can you say wrapped loop links 5 times fast? I probably can't, and I'm not going to try it. But you are welcome to. I am tongue twistering myself while I'm doing this. Anyway, if you're curious about the bracelet I'm wearing, I made this during my bracelet bash, and I used beads from the bargain bead box. I used these little turquoise turtles, or no, they're not turquoise, they're ceramic turtles. These are the turquoise turtles right here. And then some of this, like, it looks like beach glass. I love the matte finish on these, and some of the lava beads, and this is just a fantastic bracelet. I'll put a link in the description in case you missed the bracelet bash, and I will put it at the part of that video where I started making this, so you don't have to sit through the whole thing if you don't want to. But I'll put that in the description below. All right, I'm just making sure that this is straight, because with some of these longer links, sometimes they get a little bendy. It happens. Yep, end up with bendy links, which can sometimes be something you want in these longer links. You may want it to have a little bend if it's on something like a wrist, where you want it to bend and you want it to go around the wrist without looking all awkward and elbows everywhere, as some links are wont to do. All right, and we'll probably do that later when we put it together for the bracelet. But we're going to start with the necklace. And the way I'm going to put this together is I'm going to have this little guy right in the center, and then coming up each side I'll have this nautilus shell connected there, a turtle, one of these fancy guys, a turtle, another fancy guy, another turtle. This is going to end up being just perfect, I think. And one more of these, and I'm going to be connecting all of these with some jump rings. Now I pulled out 5mm jump rings from the bead box, because these were also some of the things that came in the companion bundle, were these brass jump rings, and it was just an assortment of different sizes of jump rings. So I can open it, attach it to my pendant, and then I'm just going to open and close these jump rings and attach each section in my beaded chain until I get to the end. And I'm probably going to need to dig out some more jump rings because I'm just realizing that I probably don't have enough already picked out, but there are more in there, so we should be just fine with that. I'm going to be using the same links that I just showed you how to make for the bracelet parts, so we're not going to be doing more links in this video, unless, wait, did I make enough to do, I did not make enough to do earrings, but that's okay because the earring is going to be just basically a turtle and one of these fancy links. And the turtle would be at the bottom, that's why I got the head pins out for. It'll be super cute. I'm just realizing that if you're new to jewelry making, you might not understand what I'm doing with these jump rings or how they work. So let me just show you real quick with this next one, especially since I need to pull out a few more of these. 1, 2, 3. So jump rings are little loops of metal that have a little division in them right there. What you want to do with the jump ring is hold it steady on one side like that. That's why I have it kind of sandwiched here in my round nose pliers. Round nose pliers aren't the best for this, but they work for my purposes. They might work better with a second pair of pliers, something that is flatter like this. And then it'll hold it steady while you rotate. And you want to rotate it, not pull it out. Just swing it to the side with your chain nose pliers. And that opens it up so you can slide your loops onto it, anything that you want to join with it. And then you hold it steady again. Then use your pliers to rotate it back to the position it was in before. Or, if it was kind of open before, to rotate it to where both ends are meeting together. And that closes the jump ring. Now I've already put together a second strand of these necklacey guys. So let me attach this end to my pendant down there. And then let me take some additional jump rings and this magnetic clasp that was in the, oof, this is gonna be hard to open. It's a stronghold clasp. Go. It has little notches in it to keep it from sliding apart. So it's got a little notch there. It's a magnetic clasp for that, and I've got either end of these, so let me grab some jump rings for that. I think I want to do smaller jump rings to attach those. And there was one clasp in the box, but I had a second one in my stash, so I'm going to use that one for the bracelet when I put that together. So exactly the same way, except it's a little bit smaller. Actually, I probably should have gotten the larger jump rings because that is sort of on the thick side. Large jump rings, not small ones. And you know, some considerations when you are attaching jump rings to things would be like how wide or thick the thing that the jump ring has to go through, because larger jump rings will have a shallower curve. Smaller jump rings will have a deeper curve because they have to curve faster and longer around that. So that's the reason why I switched mid-making to grab these larger jump rings, was because of how thick this part is where the jump rings would have to go through. It just would catch on it and you wouldn't get very much movement. And I was just looking at it being a very bad time for that. We are almost done making this necklace. Now that I've got my clasp on, it will be all done. And we can move on to making a bracelet. There we go. This is my necklace using the Sunken Treasure Companion Bundle from Bead Box Bargains with my turtles, my turtley guys. I love them so much. Let's move you aside real quick. I'm going to put together these links that I already made. Got some jump rings. It's ready to put them together. They're just going to be put together. Let's have these guys facing away from there. No, let's have them facing towards the middle. Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's gonna work for me. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4 jump rings, so I'm gonna need another one. Let's find those. I think maybe some larger jump rings for the clasp as well. And that'll also help give us some room on the bracelet. Sometimes making a whole suite of jewelry is pretty fun. Putting things together that match and will go together. I was about this close to putting that together the wrong way, which wouldn't have been a really big deal because they're just jump rings that are connecting them. I can open and close them and fix mistakes pretty easily. Let's do it this way because I want there to be a little more room on this. I'm just going to be combining jump rings with each other just to lengthen the bracelet out a little bit. Make a little bit of a chain to make sure it will fit, because there's a little bit less room than this takes up with between the ends of these when it goes around my wrist. So just adding a couple of extra links is a great way to extend the length of your bracelet. So it'll actually fit you. All right, one end of the clasp. Close that up. And that's the thing about the magnetic clasps, is they always want to grab onto everything. If you've got a pacemaker, you probably don't want to be using a magnetic clasp. Just a little word of warning. There are plenty of other types of clasps that you can use if that's the case. There we go. Come on, magnets. There we go. Nope. Turn the right way. Aha! So now we've got our magnet. So that's the bracelet part of this. Now I'm going to skip the earrings until the end, and we'll just do the earrings together for both of the projects, both of my sets. But so far I've got necklace and a bracelet in less than an hour. Well, I mean, it took longer because I had to do all of these links, but the actual putting them together took less than an hour. And this part is going to be mostly stringing, so it won't take as long. But I do need to figure out what order I want these beads to be strung in. I love, love, love that these beads here echo that patina color a little bit. But we've got these like apricot-y cube beads that bring a lot of warmth into our color palette. And then these lava beads, also they've got like a brass sort of metallic coating on the outside of them to make them even cooler than ever. And I'm gonna need a jump ring to attach this guy to my necklace, which, where am I going to get a jump ring from? Aha. I'm going to go ahead and use one of the ones that came in the companion bundle. I'm going to just attach this to my guy right up here at the top. Now, I saw some really, really amazing creative things that have been made with this octopus in the Beadbox Bargains Facebook group. It's a fantastic group if you're not a member of, but you do get the bargain bead box. Go check it out. That's where you can enter their monthly contest, their design contest. You can also post what you've made, get a lot of inspiration for other people. There's this amazing, amazing necklace that one of the people who posts there made, where she had like chain wrapped around it and a little like box of treasure and everything. It is glorious. I think it was Maritza who posted that, and it's amazing. I'm just in awe. In awe. It was so gorgeous. So let me figure out how I want this strung. I think I might actually, am I going to be adding some of these spacers? I'm changing things. You are always reserve the right to change your mind when you are designing things, but I think I want to add some of these little spacer beads as well, so we can carry some of that patina up the sides of the necklace. So I'm gonna pull these guys out, and let me see. I think these might be my limiting factor to how many I can do. So let me 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2. Yeah, okay. All right. So why don't we have one of these, and then these spacers a little bit. Yes, let's do that. All right. So let me start stringing. When it gets to be about half the length that I want, I'll put this guy on, and then we'll string up the other side. But as long as I make sure that I have some of these on this side and some of these on this side, then I'll make sure that I'm not using up more than I need for that. So I'm just going to start with this one, a lava bead, another lava bead, and one of these guys. Yep. Sorry, I should have done lava bead first and then that guy. I don't know what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just not thinking. That is a distinct possibility when I'm making things. Sometimes I do. I like to just kind of turn my brain off and just go with the flow and enjoy the Zen moment of putting things together and making with my hands. It can be a really, really relaxing hobby, or it could be a really, really terrifyingly terrible hobby, depending on how much. Hold on. Let's do another one on the other side of that. This is what happens when I'm talking instead of doing. I get a little sidetracked, and we end up taking the scenic route. All right, I like that for a stringing. I like these lava beads for being so lightweight. They are fantastic for spacers because of that. Yeah, I should probably have divided up all the lava beads too into this side and that side, just to be sure that I'd have enough of them as well. I bet you do. I'm probably not going to get that long with it before I'm going to want to stop, because I do like a shorter necklace. It's one of my preferences when I'm creating things. Sometimes I like a long one, but most of the time when I'm creating, it's going to be a shorter necklace, something that a focal, especially a big focal like this, can be closer to my face and not dangling halfway to my belly, because that's not my aesthetic. I'm not into that. I'm not built for long necklaces. I just am not, friends. Just I'm not. That's fine. Use your strengths. Play them up if you can. My friends. Love this. Love this. I'm so happy with the way that this looks. I'm so glad I grabbed these beads too, to give me some warmth and color. And I'm sort of picking the greener beads out of these when I'm doing that. I don't need to, but it's kind of nice too. And there were also some white lava beads in there, and I think those are going to look really amazing with some of the bluer beads in that. And I'm probably going to be making something else with that later. This is what I'm making today, so we are sticking with it. I'm just, my brain is going, what else can I make? What else can I make? And I really should be concentrating on what I'm currently making. So I'm going to get back to that, I promise. Okay. All right, I'm going to do one more of these metal beads. And the lava bead cube, roundy cube bead, and a lava bead. Should I do a lava bead or should I keep it there? I think I'm going to keep that one there. But I'm going to just check the length so far and see where it is. And if I like it, and honestly, I think this is going to be a really great length for me. I'm just going to double check again. Oh, especially if I'm thinking about how much space this is going to take up along the back of my neck. This is definitely long enough. So at this point, I can slide Mr. Octopus on just like that. And I can start up the other side. And it turns out I will not have used up all of any of these beads, and that's fantastic because I can use them for other things like the bracelet that I was gonna make. I definitely forgot to set aside some beads for a bracelet on this. That was really great planning, Bex. Fortunately, I didn't need to work that hard on planning. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4 of these. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's move these guys over here. Just kind of setting aside a couple of these for when I make the earrings. Yeah, I think that'll be good. All right. So I'm just mirroring what I did on this side, doing the same basic repeat with the beads in that same order to go up the other side. So it is a symmetrical necklace. Both sides match. I really, really like this patina, these patina findings, and I'm really glad that we got these in this box because it's just so much fun, you know? Almost, almost, almost. I think I'm going to just follow the same kind of bead pattern on the bracelet and just do, let's see, how much of it would it take to make a bracelet? I'm just gonna hold this since I'm gonna be using the same bead pattern. I just want to see how much of this would fit around a wrist. Okay, so like maybe 3 of those guys, maybe 4, I don't know, we'll see. Alright, this little lava cube lava should be the last one on this side. I'm just going to do another real quick fit check. I'm going to hold this up to my neck, see if I like where it lands. Oh yes, I do quite like that. Right. And this is the part where I'm going to be crimping. I think I'd like the hook to be on the right hand side and the fish to be on the left hand side. And let me grab some crimps and my magical crimper. It is my favorite way of crimping. I'll talk you through the first crimp, and then after that I'll just do some crimps on my own. So I'm going to take my crimp and put it onto my beading wire, go through the loop on my closure, and then feed the end of the wire back through the crimp to bend that over. So I have a nice little loop there. And I'm just twisting this to make sure that the loop is large enough that I have full articulation with this little fishy guy. And I do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to crimp this. I've got both ends of my wire going through my crimp, and the magical crimper doesn't have like the little teeth where you do like a taco crimp and you fold it in half and you crimp it that way. And you also don't just crimp it flat. It has this concavity on the inside of it there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this 2x2 crimp tube. This only works with 2x2 crimp tubes right in there. And when I give it a squeeze, the middle of it remains unsquoozed, and the edges are the ones that get pressed down flat. And so you've got sort of these sharp edges on there, and it's not completely crimped. So what you do is you turn it over to the side and go at it from a different angle and just do a real quick crimp. And then you turn it and you press and turn it and press. And every time you crimp down on it at a different angle, it smooths out those rough edges. It smooths out those corners. So you're left with this little ball of crimp, and it is secure and it'll hold your beads. It is my favorite way of crimping. I like to use them with the soft flex crimp tubes. They are also my favorites. They always work. They never fall apart on me when I'm doing this. All right, and then you can just cut off your excess wire. Like I said, it's very well crimped. And I'm going to cut off enough wire here. And I just worked from the spool for that, because that way I can only cut off the wire that I'm going to be using, instead of trying to guesstimate how long it's going to be and then having a bunch of extra wire. That was sure not going to be a ton of fun. But look how cute this fish is, y'all. I'll see if I can find a link to where I got this from if you are interested in getting some little fish hooks for closures. Yeah, it's super cute. So I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to do it a little bit faster though because I'm not going to be walking you through it. If you want to see that again, hit the rewind button. Watch me do that other one a time or two. Unlike most new things too, using a magical crimper and crimping in a different way, it takes practice. You know, using a taco fold crimper, it takes practice. You've got to be okay with sacrificing some crimps to the learning process. Because if you can do that, then each time you do it again and again, you'll get better and better. And sometimes if you stop concentrating on what you're doing and you don't make sure that it's centered, you might mess it up again. And that's okay, because you can always start over. You can always use a different crimp. He's restringing onto some new wire. There we go. Put myself a nice little ball of crimp there. Cut off my excess. And now I have an extremely nautical swimming with the fishies kind of a necklace. So I'm going to do the same pattern here. It's going to be probably easier for me to guess where we're going to end on this since I'm using the same beading pattern. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to want 3 of these beads. 1, 2, 3. 4 of these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. 8 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, and let me just get all of the lava beads that I need for this. Hopefully that's enough lava beads. If not, then maybe we won't be using all of them. That's okay, because I'm just going to make a bracelet using the same beading pattern that I used there. So we've got these guys, and 1 of these, and then these guys, and 1 of these, and then these guys. And 1 of these. Oh, that is such a pretty one. It's going to be right there in the center. I like that. Well, I think I need one more of these. Oop. Let's put it on that one. All right. Yes, 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 especially with how much space this is going to take up. It's perfect. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side as I did on the other. I'm going to make sure that I have a loop that is the right size that this fish can articulate around, so it doesn't get stuck in an awkward position. And again, I was working off the spool. I haven't cut that end of my wire yet. Oh, that's plenty of room. Still plenty of room. And I'm just going to crimp it the exact same way as I crimped before. All right. One end of my bracelet. Now for the other end. Make sure you have it attached to your closure before you feed it back through. It's not the end of the world though. If I'd made a little loop and it wasn't attached to anything, I could just use some jump rings to attach it to that loop. There are always ways to get around the mistakes you make. Always ways. I spent a lot of time fixing mistakes. There we go. And my second necklace and bracelet are done. Now let's make some earrings. Now I'm going to do one earring with y'all, and then the second earring I'll make on my own. And these are going to be fairly simple earrings. Well, I say fairly simple. But for this, I want one of my turtles. I want one of these guys. Did I have extra? It looks like I don't have any more of those. That's okay. That is just fine because we'll do some simple things with this. So what I'm going to do with this earring that's going along with these, so I'm just going to take one of these ball head pins, and I'm gonna, that hole is too small for that ball head pin, or too big for that ball head pin to fit. So I'm going to grab one of these spacers and I'm going to plop it right here on the bottom of this ball head pin, because it's a bigger ball. And that way it can fit just fine on the bottom of my little toil. And so for this, I'm going to want to do a little wrapped loop. And this is should have been a little bit longer, but that's okay. I'm just tucking the end of my wire around because it's so short, I'm gonna have to use my my pliers to tuck it. So I'm gonna hold the end of my loop with one hand and use my pliers to wrap around. With that wire. Oh, it goes the other way. Okay. So I've got a wire wrapped loop there. And now I grab my 20 gauge wire and I'm going to do another link. This link is going to have some of these spacers and 2 of the crystals. And for this one, put on the crystal, the spacer, this bead, the spacer, and the crystal, like that, because I don't have any more of the bead caps. I used them all for my project. So I'm going to make a wrapped loop up at the top. Before I wrap it, I'm going to attach my ear wire. These ear wires do have a division right here in the loop, so if I didn't attach it, it is also not the end of the world, because I can open and close that loop part just like a jump ring to attach it. But I figure since it's right here and I'm putting this all together, I'm going to save myself a step by just attaching it before I wrap my loop. So that's attached there. And now I'm going to do another wrapped loop here at the bottom. Yeah, that works. And for this one, I'm going to attach my turtle before I wrap it. So after you get it to where it's crossing over like that, you add whatever you're attaching that to, and then when you wrap it, it'll be secured. Okay, so this is the earring that will go with this necklace, like that. Move this guy aside, because this one's going to be fancier, just a little bit fancier. Let's go for about 5 inches of wire. And right here in the middle, I'm going to make myself a little loop. In the middle of this wire. I'm going to cross over both ends of this wire. And while it's still on here, I'm going to put my thumb under this one and my finger at the top of this one and just twist it twice, like that. All right. Now I'm going to put on one of these beads. Actually, how many of these have we got to play around with? Okay, so I've only got 4 lava beads left. So we're gonna go for one of these guys first. A lava bead. And then one of these. And then I'm going to make a wrapped loop on this side. And this is probably going to be a little bit fiddly because I'm going to be wrapping it onto this loop here. So I've got my little loop. And this is going to be feeling a little bit in the way. And I'm going to slide it onto here. So if it's not facing in the direction you want when you slide it on, you can always try sliding it on the opposite direction or turning it around or backwards until it gets on right. And you don't have to wrap it until after it's in the right direction. And I'm going to start wrapping this right here. So that wasn't as awkward as I thought it would be. The second one is going to be way more awkward, I promise. I promise. All right, so for this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put this guy on a lava bead. If I can find a hole, there we go. And one of these big guys. And then we're going to do another wrapped loop, and we're going to try and get it attached here to this side. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. You know what I might do? I might go ahead and bend this in this direction and then start my loop here, but not complete it until after I have gone through that hole. And it's going to be kind of a weird loop, and that's okay. It's going to be okay because I'm just making sure this gets actually done. Right, so see, it's a weird loop, but that's okay because it's got a round bit, and I can tighten it up a little bit. To make it more like the other loop. And it's okay if this is curved a little bit because we're going to be actually curving both of these. That is okay there. Call that good and just start wrapping towards the rest of this, and see, that's where it gets awkward, is wrapping around that way, because I gotta go around it in a weird way. No, sir, I don't like it. I'm going to start over. I don't like that. That is not something that I'm real happy with. You are always allowed to start over. You do not need to accept. I think what I'm going to do is grab some of the beading wire, actually. And, oh, a couple of these spacers. Yep. Here we go. Beading wire. We're going to do it this way. You go through this with the beading wire, pick up a spacer, one of these guys, and a spacer, and then go through the other side with the beading wire, like that. See if they fit. Nope, that is too many things. How about we just put that bead on with the beading wire in the way. No, I have a better idea. These carnelian beads. Perfect. Okay. That's a little too much wire. Let's do... I'm going to start with about 6 inches of wire. And then you go through both ends of this finding and through the carnelian beads so it's situated right between them. Because I'm using this antique brass wire, I'm super okay with it showing, and it can actually be part of the design. So I'm going to take both ends of my wire and put it through one of these larger beads, like this. Stop. Put one of these guys on here. Nope. Lava bead. Let's see if we can put both ends of this wire through the lava bead. I cannot. Wait, I can. Amazing. Here we go. So perfect. And then this guy on top. And I'm going to make a little loop up here using some crimps. So I slide the crimp on here just to get both of these pieces of wire together. Nope, I'm gonna actually bend one of these over so I only have to crimp once. I'm bending one of the wires back and through the crimp bead, and it's gonna come out of there. And that's okay. And this way I can make myself a little loop here. I'm gonna end up cutting this end of my wire off. I'm also going to end up cutting this end of my wire off. So let's just adjust the size of that loop a little bit. And that's what I'm going to be connecting to my ear wire, is that loop. All right. Let's get that crimp centered. I really like this a lot better than that initial design that just was not working. This is going to be a much better earring, much better looking, and way easier. Okay. Now I've got this excess bit of wire here. So you probably could have done this with a little bit less wire than I initially was guesstimating at, maybe 5 inches instead of 6. Here we go. Now this is what I was saying, there's a little divide right there in that. So you can swing that open like a jump ring to attach it to things. So I'm going to swing it open. You can see that. And attach this loop onto it and then swing it closed. And I have a necklace to go through, or to go with my Sunken Treasure necklace and set from the Bargain Bead box. All right, I'm super happy with this. I am super happy with these. And I had a lot of fun putting these together with y'all. I'll go ahead and finish up my earrings and get a picture of both of these side by side, and I will post that onto the community tab if you wanted to take a look at both of them. I'll also be posting pictures of the finished products in the Facebook group for Beadbox Bargains, so you can find that there if you would like to get a better look at these guys. Hope y'all are having a fantastic week, and I'll talk to you later. Just to remind you, if you like what you see, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe, and I will have links in the description below, both to Beadbox Bargains, where you can buy some of these things, and also to Bargain Beadbox in case you feel like you want to subscribe. There is a coupon code that'll give you a discount off your first month's box. Bye!